post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Peel off. Warriors back nicely defensively. Moody saw that the whole way. Great awareness there. Ware was calling for it for a while. They threw it too late so they could recover. DeSantos three. And he's turned into his own bench.
Well, the Warriors made it competitive for a while, despite not having Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford, or Jonathan Kuminga. They close out the 6-game road trip in Miami, and the Heat wind up with a big fourth quarter. They beat the Dubs tonight. 110-96 is the final. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, the number to jump in and join the conversation via the phone lines. Also, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We appreciate everybody watching as folks file in on YouTube and Twitch. Best YouTube chat in sports, and looking forward to hearing from everyone really in all three phases. The YouTube chat, via the text line, and we've had some pretty good calls here over the last couple of weeks on Dubs OT as the Warriors come up short in a game that was decided, I think, early this morning, or maybe in the early afternoon, more in the mid-afternoon in the East Coast when the decision was made that the Warriors were, in fact, and Steph kind of gave everybody a clue, and not a surprise. He doesn't play, dealing with an ankle. Jimmy Butler's been dealing with a little bit of a back injury. Draymond Green's been a little bit banged up. Jonathan Kuminga has been out now for about a week with this knee tendonitis, and the Warriors making the choice to play Al Horford front end of the back-to-back in the game in Orlando, where the Warriors came up short last night. So he's not playing in any back-to-backs. So he's going to sit out. And the Warriors got off to a pretty brutal start in this game offensively, missing their first 12 shots before Buddy Hield hit a driving layup with 5:22 to go in the first quarter. So they'd hit some free throws, but no buckets until the first quarter was half over. And the Heat were getting easy buckets early, and they were up 20-4 at one point, which proved to be their largest lead of the game, in a game where by the end it wound up right around that margin at 110-96, but it doesn't totally tell the full story as to how the Warriors competed in this one, in particular after the first quarter, which found the Warriors trailing 29-20 at the end of the first quarter. But the Warriors wind up winning the second quarter as a 17-4 run to tie the game at 43. They were really locking in defensively. And you know, one of the big takeaways, and we've seen this from other teams when they have players out and the Warriors will go in to somebody's building and guys are out, but you know you're going to get that competitive effort, and there's the natural letdown. I thought tonight the Warriors got one of those natural letdown efforts from the Heat based on the fact that Steph and Jimmy and Draymond and Al Horford and even Jonathan Kuminga were not going to be playing in this game. So I think the Heat had that natural, and they had been lighting it up, scoring a ton of points, number 2 offense in the NBA overall. But when they don't see Steph coming in with Jimmy, and obviously the angst that many in that organization have for Jimmy Butler, given the way his tenure with the Heat ended, and we saw that when Jimmy went back to play Miami in March of this past year, and the Heat wound up turning that game into a blowout. But it's just the Heat let down, and that allowed the Warriors, when they didn't give up after being down by 9 at the end of the first quarter, to work their way back into the game and have the ability to compete in this game, down just 49-45 at the end of the second quarter and going into the second half. Warriors ended up starting in this game and only had 10 players available. 9 of them played in this game for Golden State. They start Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Guy Santos, Will Richard, and Trace Jackson Davis. And they wound up with a 4-player bench tonight of Pat Spencer, who played pretty well, Buddy Hield, who really did not play well, but they needed his scoring, and he ended up with 18 as the Warriors were led by Brandon Pajemski, who had 20, but 19 shots, inefficient. Quentin Post had an efficient 19 tonight. Buddy Hield 18, but on 7 of 20 and 4 of 15 from three-point range with 4 turnovers. And it was a night where after that first quarter, you look up and the Warriors, just not enough offense. The defense was there. The effort was there. And just not enough makes on open three-point looks, and then too many turnovers and points off the turnovers as the Warriors end up with 21 turnovers for the game, and Miami scores 34 points off of those turnovers. The three-point makes ended up even, although the Warriors took nearly 50 at 13 of 49, and Miami winds up 13 of 35 in terms of the three-point makes. But again, competitive effort, which I think can be good for the soul. I don't really want to rant and rave about too much that we learn to be new as it relates to this Golden State Warriors team when they're playing without Steph and Curry to begin with, and even more so when they're playing without Steph along with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green and Al Horford and even Jonathan Kuminga, because say what you want about Jonathan Kuminga, tonight is the kind of game that would have the potential to open the door for Jonathan Kuminga to kind of stretch his legs and play a little bit more of the style of basketball that he's wanted to play over the course of the first 4+ years of his NBA career. So unfortunate tonight that he doesn't get an opportunity to get out there. But, and again, usually I hate load management. Those of you that have listened to this show or watched this show on YouTube, listen to the podcast, whatever, I absolutely despise load management. I hate it. I didn't love it when the Warriors did it basically in Sacramento, although Stephen Curry clearly was sick at that particular point in time, and Draymond a little banged up. And then it becomes a question of, if 2 of those guys are not going to be able to play, why play any of them? And so I didn't love it when they did it in Sacramento, although I could understand it given the fact that Steph wasn't going to be healthy enough to play. I discouraged it a week ago after the Warriors got blown out in Oklahoma City. Don't do it, as there were calls and questions as to whether they would do it going into San Antonio. I applauded the Warriors for not resting everybody in that first game against San Antonio. And what do you know? They go down there and they win not only 1 game, but 2 games against the Spurs. And those wind up being the 2 biggest games of the trip that salvage this road trip for Golden State and make it palatable as they wind up 3-3, and they had built that record back up to 9-6. They now find themselves through 17 games at 9-8 as they head home for games coming up here against Portland and Utah, Houston, as well as the Pelicans, before the Warriors will have a couple of more days off and take on the Thunder to begin December, and then head back on the road here in a couple of weeks. So the Warriors going to get a little bit of home cooking here after starting with so many games on the road. And again, while a competitive effort in many ways is good for the soul, even better would have been getting a win to maybe steal back one of the Milwaukee or Indiana games that the Warriors let slip away. Not meant to be. And again, we can get into the good and the bad from tonight's game. I don't think a ton of it really translates much to when the Warriors have their main players and how some of these younger players and role players and guys who got more of an opportunity to play tonight, I don't think there's a lot of crossover between the way those players get an opportunity to play in this game versus when the regulars are there. But the one thing I will say before we get to some phone calls, and we got a couple of people on the lines, feel free to jump in, 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll get to X and we'll get to Michael here getting us tipped off on Dubs OT here on the Sports Leader. But look, none of these are carriers. None of these, every one of these players, Brandon Pajemski's not a carrier, despite his own desires to be a carrier when Steph is retired and wanting to be better than Steph and all those kinds of things. And again, I'm not trying to crush Brandon Pajemski, but he's not a carrier. He's a complementary player. Moses Moody scored 33 in New Orleans. He struggled the last 2 games since. Moses Moody's not a carrier. He's not the guy when everybody is paying attention to him in a game where the big 3 are out that's just going to go out there and get his. He's the guy that, in the context of everybody's playing against a loose defense in New Orleans, when the team's already feeling good about themselves because they've won 2 in a row, we'll hit 7 3-pointers in the first quarter and 8 3-pointers for a game and go for a career high 33 when nobody's expecting it, as a complimentary player. Will Richard went for 30, and this was maybe one of the worst, if not the worst, games of young Will Richard's brief NBA career to this point. He ended up being a minus 25. He didn't score. He wasn't real aggressive, and took 2 threes and didn't hit. We saw Will Richard a couple of weeks ago in Sacramento go for 30 because the ball found him, and the Kings were pretty terrible defensively, and he got some open looks, and he was confident in taking those open looks. If those open looks are not there, then Will Richard can, again, as a complimentary player, look tentative or look unsure of himself, as he did at different points tonight. Again, complimentary type player. Guy Santos, complimentary player. Trace Jackson Davis, back end of a roster type of a player. None of these players, and I thought Quentin Post was probably the best Warrior on the floor tonight, along with Pat Spencer. When you look up, and the Warriors ended up with 3 players that had a positive plus minus. Spencer was a plus 10. I mean, Pat Spencer had 11 points and 13 assists with a couple of steals and 8 boards. Like Pat Spencer and Quentin Post were pretty good for the Dubs in this game. Buddy Hield scored, but I would not say was good. Podziemski scored, I would not say was good. 20 and 8. Only 2 assists, the 3 turnovers. Again, who's turning the ball over? Buddy had 4 turnovers. But every one of these guys, and I think we can give a positive vibe nod to Pat Spencer and to Quentin Post, but every one of these guys are complimentary players. So I think it's unfair to tear them down and rip them to shreds here on a night where ultimately there's too many wide open shots missed or too many opportunities to attack and score that end up in turnovers that go back the other way. Because overall, this team was competitive in this game now for 2.5 to 3 quarters before the Heat basically flipped the switch in the fourth quarter and said, "Oh, we gotta bust ass here for about 6 minutes and put this game away." And they did it in that fourth quarter after the Warriors had the 2-point lead going to the fourth, 38-22 Miami in the fourth, and the Heat win it by that final of 110-96. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. YouTube chat, folks filing in here. Again, I don't know that we learned anything new about this team that can be applied to when Steph and Jimmy and Draymond are back with Al Horford and Jonathan Kuminga. But I like the effort. Again, though, I think we learned what we already knew about a lot of the Warriors role players and younger players. And that's the fact that none of them at this stage are really capable of being carriers. And again, I don't want to tear anybody down too far for that, because I don't think it's something that's necessarily expected of any of them. It just shows the reality of the talent balance on this roster. So let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR. Let's start here, and we do have a couple of lines open as well, so you can jump in and join the conversation. But X in Sacramento is going to start us here. Dubs OT with JD here on this Wednesday night on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, X?
JD, I got a lot of points. I'm going to try to get to them very quickly. First of all, Pat Spencer is a beast, and I think that guy is going to be influential to our team for quite a while. I think actually that this game proved that we had a good future ahead of us. This was a gritty game, and I think that's something that, I don't want to say that our team has shied away from, but hasn't really been good in. And we're in it for 3.5 quarters, basically. So I think that's really good. Will Richard, I wish he would have done something tonight, but what are you going to do? So with Will Richard's previous experience and what I saw tonight, I'm not too scared anymore about Steph, Draymond, and Kerr retiring, because I think we got something really good on the horizon.
Wow. You really believe that, X?
I do believe that, yeah.
Okay. I do not see it. And I don't want to be disrespectful to you or to any of these young players on this Warriors roster, but I don't see any future with that group as a standalone. I see a bunch of guys that can be NBA players. I see a bunch of guys who can be in the league for 8 to 10 years, which is a hell of a career. But I see zero standalone future for this group. If you're talking about 3-4 years down the line, and let's say Steph's gone and Jimmy's gone and Draymond's gone, and you're running out a team of Pajemski and Richard and Moody, and I'll even throw Kuminga in there, TJD or Quentin Post. I mean, I think you're struggling to win 20 games with that group. Like, I don't see anybody who's a future star among that group. Maybe Kuminga's got the potential, but he's the kind of guy that sure, he might be your star, but is he truly going to be a player that can lead you to winning? While he is that number one option, I think we've kind of seen that, how that would shake out, even going back to last year in the playoffs. But again, competitive effort tonight. I don't want to be disrespectful. I think Miami had a major letdown tonight, which led to the game being close. I give them credit for their defense. And of course, these guys are going to get better, you would hope, throughout the course of their careers. I don't want to dog the ability for anyone to be able to improve, but I don't see any upside for this group at all as it relates to them being a standalone 2-3 years down the line. Hey, this is your team. If this is your team, you're in big trouble. I mean, you're the Charlotte Bobcats. If this is your team in 3-4 years, you're at the bottom of the barrel. The Pelicans have more talent currently. The Jazz have more talent currently. I mean, you are in big trouble. But X, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your take. We'll respectfully disagree on that note, but appreciate you chiming in and joining the conversation this evening. Thanks for the call, X. X and his line open at 808 KNBR. Kyle, I don't want to laugh. I mean, I really don't like. I think X was serious. I think X was dead serious. I don't think he was. At first, I kind of thought, was X running a little material? Was X trying to be cute? Like, Kyle, give me your vote here before we get to the next call. I mean, was X serious? I think he was. I think he was being genuine, which is why I wanted to give him a respectful answer.
I think he was too, and I think me and everyone in the YouTube chat is on the side of you, where there is no future if you run out that 5 in 3 to 4 years when Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are gone.
And I don't even think anybody's thinking that. Like, I don't even think anybody in the Warriors organization is thinking that.
I think it's just a fact,
like
almost,
Like, it just, everybody knows. It's like, hey, it was November 19th, and the Heat didn't really bring it, and the Warriors did, so they got back into the game, and they hung around. But there is no future. I mean, that is a bottom 2 team in the NBA. Rusty Nail chiming in here, smoking that opium. Yeah, that is wild. In 3 or 4 years, will Pod Spencer, TJD, Post even be in the NBA? Says Bee's Knees. I think, Pajemski will be. I mean, Pat Spencer, I wouldn't bet against being in the NBA because he's got some dog in him. And then TJD, who knows? I mean, honestly, I think TJD's a coin flip as to whether he's in the NBA moving forward at that point. So, I mean, if Pat Spencer and Quentin Post are the best 2 players on your team on a given night, I mean, again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but you're in big trouble. I mean, this ain't exactly the Sharks with Macklin Celebrini out there losing games to begin the year and then coming along, as the season goes on. It's not like there's some blue chip future potential best player in the league that we're not seeing on this Warriors roster. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's continue on the phone lines with Michael in Santa Cruz up next here. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Hey,
what's going on, Michael?
Thanks for taking my call. Thank you so much. I am going to throw somebody under the bus, or however you said it. Podemski has to go. He cannot shoot. He's a local kid, went to Santa Clara, right? Like it's like a feel good story. He plays hard. He's a great person. But this is chess, it's not checkers. And I think he's a liability for the team. He has to go. He hasn't shot well for over a year or two. Nothing. Like, this guy has to go. Yes, he plays hard, but this is not. Do you want to keep him? He's not going to win NBA championship. He has to go. So, please, he's a liability. He cannot shoot. I'm thinking this is what I want to do, okay? I want to trade Podemski to Dallas for, just hear me out, for Derek Lively and Klay Thompson. I bet Dallas would be willing to give up Klay. We don't need a 40-minute guy.
I don't want Klay Thompson back. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to let you finish your point. I'm going to let you finish your point here. I also want to give you a little knowledge on the salary structure, because the salaries have to match if you're going to do a trade like that. Lively's making 5.2. Podziemski's making, I think, 3.4 to 3.7. I don't have it exactly, but he's in the mid to upper threes in terms of million. So if you're going to take Lively and Klay, then at that point you're basically looking at about it would have to be Lively and Klay for, Podziemski gets you about $4 million of the way to 22. So you got to include about $18 million a player in that deal still, if you're the Warriors, roughly, to go back to Dallas, even to consider that deal. Now, I'll short and sweet. I have zero interest in Klay Thompson coming back to the Warriors. Zero interest. His energy was awful the last 2 years he was with Golden State. Let that be. He's going to get traded somewhere. Maybe he winds up back with the Lakers. I think that's probably a situation that he would welcome. But I'm not even saying Podziemski's not somebody that should be on the block. I think him and Kuminga, the way things are going, both could be on the block here between now and the trade deadline. But you got to come up with a little more going from the Warriors in terms of salary and to the Mavs if you want to make that deal.
I think Lively would be amazing for the team. They need a big man. This guy's incredible. Or they even have the guy Guilford, one of those two guys. First of all, you need a big man.
Yeah, Gafford's somebody to keep an eye on. I don't think the Mavs are going to move Lively again. I don't think they're going to move. But Gafford is somebody that's making 14.8 or 14.3, then 17.2, 18.1. He's signed through 28-29. And thanks for the call. So I don't think, Michael, the Warriors have been reluctant to go that deep beyond 27, 20 or 26, 27 this year and next year in terms of the salary that they're willing to take on. But Gafford is the type of lob threat big that I do think can benefit the Warriors. But again, you got to send salary out. You can't do Podziemski for Gafford either, because Podziemski makes a little under 4 and Gafford makes 14. So you got to come up with, maybe it's Buddy Hield and Podziemski and maybe a first round pick at that point. Or, I wouldn't be looking at Kuminga and, for Gafford necessarily. I don't even think, PJ Washington or Najee Marshall would be the two guys that I would want most off the Dallas roster. Najee Marshall, 9 and 9.4 the next 2 years. I'm looking at PJ Washington signed through 29-30 right now, but an affordable deal, 14, 19, 21, 20, 23, 24 and a half going through the next, 5 years, basically beginning with this year. So I think a guy like PJ Washington or somebody like Najee Marshall potentially could help the Warriors moving forward. But yeah, if you want to make these deals, it can't just be somebody goes and you're sending out very little salary and you're taking back a bunch of salary. The math has got to work a little bit. But and here's the other thing about Podziemski. We know he's not a carrier. We know he has a higher opinion of himself than he probably should. I've said it a lot, and people have kind of. At first, I didn't think people got it, and I think as time's gone on, people get it. Him and Kuminga are kind of similar in terms of higher opinion of themselves, guys. Now, I think Kuminga's cleaned that up through the beginning of this season somewhat to try and get along and get through to be able to adapt and be able to play on this team and maybe work his way into a trade elsewhere at the trade deadline. But you can't say the things that Podziemski said, awkward as they may come off, and then put yourself in a position where when you don't play well, there isn't going to be some accountability attached to it. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well here as we try and sort through who's going to be here and who's not. But can Podziemski be a complementary player to the others? Yes. Podziemski can be a complementary player with the others, and we've seen him be able to do it in the 31 games last year. We've seen him to do it in stretches this year. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. No Steph, no Jimmy, no Draymond, no Horford, no Kuminga. Warriors competitive, but the Heat put their foot down in the fourth quarter. They outscore the Dubs 38-22 to win the game 110-96, the final. Kyle, what do we got to do here? Do we want to keep it going with some calls, or do we want to take a quick timeout? It's your call, your rules here. We got Danny, we got Duck Sauce. Quick timeout.
I think quick timeout. We'll get to Danny in Vancouver and Duck Sauce in San Jose on the other side. But yeah, quick timeout just to get the clock back.
Yeah, let's take a quick timeout. We'll get to Danny. We'll get to Duck Sauce. We've already been peppering in some Kyle's clicks. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's Dubs OT with JD. Warriors get beat tonight in Miami 110-96, and we are talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Post out of the corner. He got the three. Warriors are here. They are so competitive, and they are all over the glass. It's helping them stay in it.
Yeah, Warriors competitive tonight, but not enough, as they did out-rebound the Heat 61-52. Good night for Quentin Post overall. He ended up with 19 points, 6 boards, couple of assists, hit 3 of 7 from three-point range. He was hitting the 2-point shot tonight, taking a step in and knocking it down, 5 for 6 on his 2-point shots tonight, but not enough. Big fourth quarter for the Heat. No Steph, no Jimmy, no Draymond, and no win for the Golden State Warriors. Heat win at 110-96, so the Warriors fall to 9-8 overall. They end up 3-3 on the road trip, which I think you'd take, considering where things were when this road trip started, with the blowout loss in Oklahoma City and some of the comments made by Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler in the aftermath of that first game, and then knowing they had to go play a back-to-back in San Antonio and then a second game in San Antonio. Really the 2 games in San Antonio and the 2 wins in San Antonio, how the Warriors able to salvage a trip that, again, I think if you had said 3-3, you'd take it, but the overall record at 9-8 is still not through 17 games where I think the Warriors would want this thing to be. And I think more than anything, it still is those games against Milwaukee and Indiana that they were able to let slip through their fingers. You get those games, you could withstand a night like tonight. You could withstand a night like even the game in Sacramento where you lose when you rest everybody. And the Kings, though, even though they have not won a game since now, 7 in a row, Kings got beat by the Thunder tonight again. So the Warriors looking up, they were the lone win for Indiana before Indiana got their second win, and they were the one of 3 wins for the Kings. Indiana got their second win here a couple of nights ago. But yeah, the Warriors find themselves now in a position where they are 9-8 coming home here to play Portland on Friday. 808 KNBR. Let's get to the phones. Danny in Vancouver up first here this segment on Dubs OT. Hey, Danny.
JD, my man. Nice to talk to you again, as always.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. I was telling Kyle that it was interesting. You're as always, you're so insightful and thoughtful, and you're so knowledgeable. But your comment about the Heat doing what the Warriors do when they play teams that don't have any of their regulars playing was so bang on. And it's sort of interesting to see it from the flip side, like how it looks from the Warriors' perspective. Because normally when I watch the Warriors play, they're playing with their full complement of players, and they're playing another team that doesn't. They're playing their bench players, and it's so frustrating. It's like, why can't they put them away? So that was kind of interesting to see that. Second thought was I was horrendous, horrible start, but I really appreciate how hard they worked. They hung in there as long as they could. I felt like if they just shot a little bit better, they might have stolen that game. I mean, it was definitely for the taking up to even, I think, 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. But they just didn't have anyone. I thought maybe Buddy could get hot, but he didn't. Pajemski, meh. Moody didn't contribute anything. The only guy who I thought played well, I agree with you, is Post. And I also agree with your assessment that there's not really, they're just carriers. I mean, other than Richard and Post, the jury's still out on how much they can develop in the NBA. There really isn't a lot. And I know you mentioned before about we need someone. It's never been more apparent to me after tonight that we need someone, a third player who can go and get his own, like a Jordan Poole. I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not saying bring back Poole, but the nice thing when Poole was here, he could create his own shot, he could heat up, and he could carry the Warriors, and they absolutely don't have that. And I don't know, how we can find something. But to me, that's the biggest need. Forget about a big man, a swing man. We need someone who can go out and create their own, who can drive, who can hit threes and shots. I think that is the number one priority now. And very last comment, JD, and I'll get off the phone, is I could not agree more about your comments about Clay. The worst thing in the world is they brought Clay here. Thank you, Clay, for your service. Hall of Famer, legendary. You were great, but there's no way in hell I would want Klay Thompson back on the Warriors. Thanks, JD, very much. Have a great night.
Appreciate the call. Thank you. And yeah, he when he gets his statue at his mural night and they hang his jersey in the rafters, it's all going to be good. It's all going to be forgiven. There's no animosity. It will be 100%, 120% love. But yeah, to me, that ship has sailed in terms of looking to bring him back at this point. I think it's still too soon. There was too much negative energy. I'd look to get, I'd look to move on from that at this point, or move away from even looking at that. But yeah, the shoe was on the other foot tonight, Danny. No doubt about it. The Heat had to let down and then had to get the motor going in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, they were going to get beat. And I do give the Warriors credit for the way that they competed after the horrendous start. And I'm with you. I mean, the game was right there to be stolen. If they had more of a hot night shooting, they might have been able to finish the deal because the Heat had sort of let them hang around in the game. It's that guard. There's three things the Warriors could use in order of importance for me. I still think the 3-and-D wing would be at the top of my list. If I'm looking at the three types of players that the Warriors need, I think if you could get a 3-and-D wing, a la PJ Washington, somebody like that, that can defend and hit shots, and that to me is somebody would immediately be a rotation type player. Trey Murphy, again, kind of a pipe dream potentially, but that type of a player I think would be at the top of my list. The combo guard that can create his own shot and score, the Kobe White, the Colin Sexton, Malik Monk even, although I don't think the interest is necessarily going to be there for Malik Monk. And then the big man would be third on the list at this point, because the Warriors still are at their best when Draymond's playing the 5. And, they're invested in Al Horford at this point. Again, could they use the lob threat, Gafford type big man? I think they could. But I think that the 3-and-D wing and the guard are the area in which they need to go, and could, that's the area that could be the most beneficial in the regular season and in the playoffs. I feel like that third option guard that can create his own shot is probably going to be more of a regular season player than a postseason player. But the reality is they probably need that guy to get through the remainder of the regular season. And how do you get it? It all comes down to being willing to move. I think you got a bunch of guys that you'd be willing to move to make it happen. Kuminga, I think Podziemski would be somebody that you'd be willing to move potentially to make that happen. I think Buddy Hield is a contract you'd be willing to move to be able to make that happen. And really, I think the only untouchables for players of that ilk would be Steph, Jimmy, Draymond. Again, I don't think you'd be looking to move Moses Moody. I think you'd still be looking to keep Will Richard. But yeah, I think, Buddy Hield, the Podziemski, Kuminga, I think are the guys that you'd be looking at. What can you get maybe for those guys as we move forward here? All right, let's get to Duck Sauce. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. What's going on tonight, Duck Sauce?
Jay Dilla, my guy. Can you hear me okay? I'm on the road tonight.
I got you loud and clear, brother. Appreciate you chiming in.
Yes, sir, my brother. Yeah, JD, I've always took pride in being a Warriors fan. That I took pride in the fact that we would build our teams through the draft. We weren't one of those teams like going out just making, trade after trade, to get guys. Like we drafted Steph, Draymond, Clay, Looney, even Harrison Barnes, JD, when, KD's one of my favorite players in the league, but there was a part of me that was sad to see, Harrison leave because we drafted him. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, sure. JD, like, I'm ready to move off all these guys, man. Like, they got no talent, JD. Like, the word fluidity comes to mind. Can you just look fluid off the dribble? We don't have, like, the only thing I disagree with you on, JD, is, yeah, we do need a 3-and-D. I'd put a the creator above that. Like, because a 3-and-D usually means a guy that he ain't going to handle the ball, spot up, can defend multiple positions. JD, we need some guys that can dribble, plain and simple, man. Like, the fact that we could have got Quentin Grimes, like, to me right now, that's looking, oh, man, that would have been huge for us, JD. A guy comfortable being a six-man who can create for you, who can score in bunches. Like, this team, man, like, I'm so tired of watching Pods, JD. I know you ain't as down on him as I am, but I don't know if he could drop 25 in my Tuesday night men's league, man. Like, this dude is just, it's painful to watch, man. Like, I'll let you go, JD, but I'm just like, and Will Richards and Post, like, I can't even get on them because how late they were drafted to me. If they end up being good, that's found money. You can't get mad at guys being drafted in the late 50s of any draft. You know what I'm saying? These other guys, we missed on them, JD. Plain and simple. We missed. Have a good night, my brother.
No, I appreciate it, Duck Sauce. Look, as far as Podziemski, nights like tonight don't do him any favors because, he's been somebody that's been outspoken as to wanting to take on a bigger role. And when you get the opportunity and it looks as bad as it did tonight, and yes, he did lead the Warriors in scoring, but it took him 19 shots to score 20 points, and he was a minus 13, and he had 3 turnovers. Like, yeah, that tonight, nights like tonight do him no favors. The reality is, though, I think, it's twofold. Like, I don't think Brandon Podziemski's a future all-star. I don't think Brandon Podziemski's a future franchise player. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga is on a winning team. I think he might actually be a future 1 or 2 franchise player somewhere, but I don't think the team that he's a 1 or a 2 on is going to be a winning team, at least anytime soon. And then Moses Moody's a steady, solid, complementary player. Do you want a little bit more than that from the number 14 pick in the draft? I maybe, but Podziemski was taken 19. The one that really still, it's Kuminga. I mean, he's the guy who was picked 7. And, that's the one where, you really want that guy to at least be able to be a consistent role player contributor. And he just still, to this point, it looked promising to begin the year, but it feels like every year is kind of the same. He winds up having some kind of an injury. He gets moved to the bench after he works his way into the starting lineup and then never quite figures it out again for the remainder of the season. And again, I don't think he's going to have the remainder of the season this year to be afforded that. But so none of these guys are carriers in the way that the Warriors need them to be on this team. Again, I don't even care about 28, 29, we're about 28, 29 a couple of years from now. Like 2 years is a long time. 2 years is a long time. If somebody would have said in 2018, as the Warriors were winning their second straight title with KD, and their third in 4 years and 4 straight finals in 2018. If somebody had said in the summer of 2018 that by the summer of 2020, the Warriors would be a 15-50 team and Durant would be gone and Clay and Steph would be coming off of injuries and they'd have the number 2 pick in the draft, I don't know anybody that would have believed you. That was 2 years. And it was really a year. It was really a year and a half. Like a lot can change in 2 years. So I wouldn't be worried about as we get closer to 26 here, what's coming up in 2028. It's how can you get this team over the top? And yeah, I still put 3-and-D wing over the guard that can create his own because they need somebody that's more consistent than Moses Moody and Will Richard at that role. Or they need another play. Like they need a guy that can put with Moody. In a perfect world, they need a guy that can close with, let's say, Steph, Moody, PJ Washington, Trey Murphy, somebody of that ilk, Jimmy and Draymond. Like that's the close. And if Moody doesn't have it and Pods does, then maybe Pods finishes that night. Like they need that insurance policy. And maybe DeAnthony Melton is some of the insurance policy against Podziemski and him starting to play a little bit less because Melton can handle the ball a little bit. So that's going to be interesting. And by the way, there was an update today on DeAnthony Melton. So we'll get you that update coming up here on DeAnthony Melton as he was reevaluated and what is coming up for him as far as a potential return, because we are getting closer to that. I think we're probably officially inside a month or so as it relates to DeAnthony Melton's potential for return. So we'll get you the official word from the Warriors on that. All right, let's get a couple of chats here quick, and then we'll devote the next segment predominantly to chats at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. 808 KMBR. A couple of phone lines open if you want to jump in and join the conversation on the phone lines. We'll get to some texts as well, but let's hit 3 or 4 chats here before we take a timeout. Joke's on you, JD. The Heat aren't the Warriors, and the Warriors aren't the Pacers. Really a nothing burger of a game. Yeah, for the most part. For the most part, I think that's true. Not a lot truly to glean. Gene McIntyre, we didn't learn anything new. The roster is bad, non-athletic, and appearing out of shape. Again, that I didn't want to be too harsh, so I'm going to allow for others to kind of have their piece and not have it come off as harsh as well. But yeah, it's a bunch of complementary pieces and guys who are inconsistent even in their complementary roles. So I think it's unfair to say that those guys can do more on nights like tonight. All right, let's get a couple of more here. From Gene, we go to Florida Dubs fan. We have young guys that are career-long role players. I think that's well said. If you said, JD, what do you think the ceiling is for Podziemski? I don't think he's an all-star. Can he be a 10-year player in the league? I think he can be a 10-year player in the league as a top 8 in a rotation kind of a player, but I don't think Podziemski's a future all-star. Kuminga I think could be, but again, if he's a 1 or a 2 option, it's on a losing team. I think Moody's got the guy that probably has the biggest upside in terms of being able to consistently be on winning teams, because he's the most consistent, I think, in his role of the young players that the Warriors have. And even he's still inconsistent. You look at a night like tonight. All right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. We'll get more in the YouTube chat with an extended edition of Kyle's Clicks. Warriors lose 110-96 in Miami, and we're talking about it right here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
Santos, Will Richard, and Moody cutting to the baseline to hammer it down.
It is headhunting season for Moses Moody.
Moses Moody, his game, career game in New Orleans on Sunday. Not a great game for Moses Moody tonight, although he gets the dunk there. Warriors lose 110-96 in Miami, so they finish up the road trip at 3-3. We're back here into the 8 o'clock hour. It's Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation. Warriors without Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Al Horford, Jonathan Kuminga tonight. And they were competitive for 2.5 quarters in this one after falling behind by 16 early. It was 20-4 Miami. Warriors actually flipped the game to build a lead in this game. But the Warriors, a big fourth quarter, they get outscored in the fourth quarter. Warriors led by as many as 5 before ultimately the game flips back. A 38-22 fourth quarter. Miami wins it 110-96. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll have Sounds of Dubs OT coming up at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. And before we get to Kyle's clicks, want to get back to just give everybody the update on DeAnthony Melton. We mentioned the Warriors did release the reevaluation update on DeAnthony Melton, who's continuing to recover from the torn ACL and the surgery that he had last December 4th. So he continues to progress. The Warriors say he's been working out in practice and scrimmages with Santa Cruz throughout the last couple of weeks, and now will be integrated into full practice and scrimmages with the Warriors over this time now where the Warriors are going to be home. So they're going to be off tomorrow. They got to play the game against Portland, and then they have the weekend off. They play Monday against Utah, Wednesday against Houston. Then they have a couple of days off. So they're going to get some practices, as many as 2 or 3 practices in here on this homestand. where the Warriors will not play another road game until 2 weeks from tonight. They'll go east to Philadelphia after the next, 5 games at home. We got Portland, Utah, Houston, the Pelicans, and then Oklahoma City, and a couple of days off before each of those final 2 games. So he's going to be reevaluated again in 10 days. So do the math on that as we sit here on November the 19th, and he would be reevaluated again right around the 29th. So the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. And so, early December, I think, on the table for a potential return for DeAnthony Melton. And I think the Warriors are going to bring him along slowly. I don't think he's going to be anybody that's going to be playing in back-to-backs for Golden State. Kind of similar to Al Horford. They'll pick a game front end or back end. And I think they're also probably going to try to limit him to around 25 minutes. But he's somebody that can definitely ease a little bit of the pressure off of Podziemski and some of the guards. Maybe a little less GP2, maybe a little less Podziemski, maybe a little less Hield. I think Melton can absorb some minutes from all of those guys once he's able to return. And that return, it feels like there is finally some semblance of a timeline more legitimately for a return here at the beginning of December. So some good news on that front. All right, let's get to Kyle's clicks here. And again, 808 KMBR, we'll get to some text messages on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. Not a ton to glean from tonight. Warriors lose this one 110-96 to Miami. All right, what do we got, Kyle? Let's get it rolling here. DVDV, the Dub schedule looks like a punishment ritual. 17 games, 5 back-to-backs, 12 road trips, 13 cities. NBA said, let's break them. Make it hell for the Warriors. Mission accomplished. Yeah, well, the flip side of that is it does even out. And it will, around January, even out even more. It does a little bit here with the 5 games that are coming up for the Dubs. And, again, they don't go anywhere for 2 weeks. So they will, around the Thanksgiving holiday, be home. And then we'll see. They get to that portion of the schedule where they're probably going to play a home game and a road game somewhere in that in-season tournament. Second week of December, depending upon where they wind up for the Emirates Cup. But, they've got some more road games back half of December, and then they come home, and they're going to be home basically with 1 game in L.A. against the Clippers for the first 3 weeks of January in 2026, and a lot of winnable games through that stretch. So it does even out a little bit, and the Warriors have more of a favorable schedule with rest and the like at the back end. So I know it's been said a lot, and again, the 9-8 is not where the Warriors want to be in terms of their overall record. I think that record flat out, again, without with or without the schedule, I think the record is disappointing. I don't think there's any way around it. I think the Warriors believe that they built their roster to be able to better withstand the schedule at the beginning. But I will also tell you that I think the Warriors organizationally, the coaching staff and beyond, are just trying not to get buried during this early stretch. And 9-8 definitely doesn't get you buried, even if you look at where things sit right now in terms of the standings and the Warriors sitting as a play-in team at this particular point in time at 9-8, basically in the 8 seed, but a couple of games out of the 6 seed. I think they'll take it as much as they would say that 9-8, they'd prefer if it was an 11-6. And if it was an 11-6, then they'd be firmly entrenched at that point into the top 6 in the Western Conference. All right, let's continue on. I don't like complaining about the schedule. Bees Knees, who returns first, Melton or Kuminga? I think it's Kuminga. I think there was an outside chance Kuminga could have played tonight. So I would expect that he's back, if not Friday against Portland. I would expect that he's back Monday against Utah. If he's not back Monday against Utah, then I think this is really a concerning issue, because you remember what happened last year with the ankle, and he was out and out and out. But again, I think part of it is Kuminga, and I don't fault him for this. Some guys, if they aren't, and I've said this, some guys, if they're not 100%, even if they're 85%, and I'm not saying that to be true, but guys that are less than, they got to be a certain amount close to 100 to be able to have it be worth it for them to be out there, because they just aren't themselves. And I think in a couple of the games before Kuminga went down and wasn't playing, he didn't quite look like himself, and we were kind of wondering why. And I think in fairness, he needs his explosiveness, and he needs to feel confident in his explosiveness. So I think maybe some of why he didn't look like the same player that he had been in the early part of the year could have been that this knee thing was starting to flare up on him a little bit. Again, not an excuse, but I do want to give him some benefit of the doubt for, he was regressing a little bit from where he was the first 5 or 6 games, but I also think maybe he was dealing with a little bit of a physical issue that maybe prolonged that regression off of the early part of the season when he was playing really well those first, again, 5 or 6 games. But I think Kuminga gets back first. If he doesn't, yikes, that's really bad. Bee's knees. Appreciate it. Max Lopez, Kuminga is movable. The rest, it would be a favor for teams to take. I'm not sure about that. I think teams would want Brandon Podziemski. But again, Brandon Podziemski makes less than $3 million a year. So if Brandon Podziemski is going to make less than $3 million per year, he is a difficult player to trade, because that's pretty close to the veteran minimum in terms of money. And so I don't think any teams would take Podziemski, but you're just not going to get a lot back for Podziemski, I think, in part because he's not playing well. But the other part of it is the fact that he makes so little. He would have to be packaged with somebody, and then you have to start to add to the top of the trade in terms of it's Podziemski and Buddy. It's Podziemski and Kuminga. I think you need to start thinking about it maybe more in that vein. But I will say, I know the fans are frustrated with Podziemski. I've grown to be more frustrated with Podziemski this year than I have been in the last couple of years, where I've been one to defend him a little more. I still think he plays, or at least has a chance to play effectively with the main group, right? He's able to do that to a greater extent than certainly Kuminga has been able to. So we'll see, moving forward, if that's something that can, I thought he played his most impactful basketball toward winning in these last handful of games where they were basically playing the same rotation that they played the last 31 games for the most part, with Horford and Will Richard, a couple of the new guys mixed in there. So the rest of it, yeah. But here's the other part, Max. There are other players on other teams that those teams want to move on from as well. So I think you have to also add that to the equation. All right. Thanks, Max. Appreciate that one. Let's move forward. Gene, typically around 25 games, a team has an identity. 8 more games, I don't see the current roster coming to fruition. Yeah, I think the identity, they've had 2 stretches where they've played pretty well. The 4-1 start, and then this last week where they won the 3 games, 2 in San Antonio and the game against the Pelicans. That's what 7 of their 9 wins are right there. And the other couple, one at home against Indiana, and the other win just kind of mixed in there against Phoenix. So I'm willing to, I think we know the identity. The identity is that they feel that they can compete with Steph and Podziemski and Moody and Jimmy and Draymond, and they think Horford can help them. And we'll see on Kuminga, and the rest of it is, I think, a lot of what we saw in those last 31 games, but they still have to work too hard to earn wins, I think. And it's been twofold, right? It's been the Milwaukee and Indiana games. It was the veterans who didn't bring enough in those games. It was a night like last night where it was the young players who didn't bring enough. And then they've had a couple of games that they basically punted on at the beginning of the day tonight. And look, they were competitive, so you give them credit for that, but they punted on tonight and they punted on the game in Sacramento 2 weeks ago tonight. So they've had 2 punts, and then they've had a couple of games where the young guys haven't held up their end of the bargain. And I think there's been a couple of games where the veterans haven't held up their end of the bargain. The frustrating thing, though, is what Steph and Jimmy and Draymond can bring to the table. And we've seen Al Horford maybe not do it with the Warriors, and I think that's becoming something more and more concerning. But it really is a situation where what the veterans bring to the table. And so the young players' inconsistencies, the young players' lack of a leap, right? I always say never count on leaps for players. Like, don't count on Podziemski to make a leap. Don't count on Moody to make a leap. Don't count on Kuminga to make a leap. Like, those kinds of leaps happen, and none of them have made that leap. But they happen when you aren't expecting it. They don't happen when everybody's talking about it needing to happen. And so I think overall, it's the disappointment for the young players to grow into their own enough to where they can be maybe not full-blown carriers, but once in a while carriers. And that just is not the case, by any stretch of the imagination here. Dig on 117. The issue is that this team plays no defense. The championship teams all played lockdown defense. Well, they play defense when Draymond's on the court. They and the numbers say that they play defense when Draymond's on the court. But again, that goes back to the whole problem about needing to play at an extremely high level in terms of playing hard. They have to play too hard too often to be able to defend at that level that helps them win games. And that to me is the biggest issue. Tonight they played defense after they got down, but who cares about tonight? They didn't have enough talent on the floor tonight to win that game despite being competitive. So yeah, they have too many, I think, still players that they want to play that are good offensively and not where you want defensively. And then they have others that are good enough defensively, like your GP2s and other that don't bring enough to the table offensively. So I think that's the reality of where the situation is as it relates to that. But I wouldn't say they play no defense. They're just too dependent on certain players to lead their defense when they play good defense. And so, like everything else with this team to this point throughout the season, it's been really inconsistent. And that's why you look up and it's 17 games in and it's a 9-8 record. Richie, good road trip for one reason. Steph had 95 points in 2 games. Keep it real. 3-3 is a good trip. 3-3 is a good trip. Like that's reality. And you can call me a homer as David LOL Lombardi, who's going to be probably dismissed from further competition here. I see you, David LOL Lombardi, not the real David Lombardi, but a fake David Lombardi. About to get 86th. We haven't 86'd anybody for a while, but he's about to get 86 like a gnat that I swat away right on the countertop. So enjoy it while you can, because you're about to be disqualified from further competition.
I didn't know this, and I think it's kind of funny. In the StreamYard studio, I can put someone in timeout.
Oh yeah, Lombardi's done.
Yeah,
that guy's done.
Yeah. Anyway,
you're done.
So to the YouTube chat.
You run your mouth. You think I don't see it? LOL. You're done. You're toast. See, I hit you with the T. FOH, pal. You're done. Night. So come back and pick another fake name. And try to get your ass back in tomorrow. And we're going to throw your ass out of there then too. And of course, we know it's not the real Dave. I see everything, bro. Don't think I don't see it, and you weren't going to be dealt with. Night.
He's been dealt with. He's been removed.
Appreciate it.
but
that was gonna happen.
anyway, I didn't know that that was a feature, and I think it's a great feature for times like this.
Oh yeah, it definitely is a feature, and we very rarely use it. I don't know. I think Greg Silvers maybe used it. I think we've used it less than 5 times. I think we've used it in the history of the show, which is, we're 2 years old at this point. But yeah, that's done. But yeah, good. Richie, we'll keep it real. Steph had 95 points in 2 games and they went 3-3. I think you'll take that. I think you will take that. Again, it's the overall record that you're not happy with. And it's, I think, still the development of the young players that you're the most disappointed in, I think, at this point. And also the feeling that this team doesn't have enough. Like, let's just be honest. Does anybody feel like this team right now, 17 games in, has enough? I think that's the reality check that needs to be dealt with here. And can they get to that point? We'll see. But I just, young players not coming along, overall record not where you want it to be, and the belief that the roster, even with Melton's return a couple of weeks away at this stage, that this team still doesn't have enough. Thanks, Richie. We the champs, babe. The Heat had 40 points off Dub's turnovers. Wasn't quite 40, but it was in the 30s. I'm looking at it. It was 34. Yikes. 34-14 advantage in points off turnovers. 23 turnovers for the Warriors. 34 points off of those turnovers. Miami had 14, and the Warriors only had 14 points off of those turnovers. So, yeah, ugly stuff. That was the story of the game. Warriors had opportunities to hit some open looks that they didn't hit. And so it was just not enough offense, I thought, for the most part. The defense was competitive, really, other than the beginning of the game, I thought, throughout. And then too many points off turnovers. And, oh, by the way, the Heat also flipped the switch, I think, down the stretch and said, hey, we got to win this game. And we're much better than the team that the Warriors are currently putting out there. And it leads to the 38-22 fourth quarter where the bad defense returned, unfortunately, for Golden State. Rusty Nail, the more glimpses we see of the post-Steph, Dray, and Jimmy Warriors, the more sad this gets. I think we need to prioritize saving future draft picks. I see a lot of lottery balls in our near future. I don't think the Warriors should be afraid of it. I really don't. But you have to make sure when you do make the move to add players to the roster that you're getting guys that can be part of the present and part of the future. It's no rentals. You're not giving up a pick or multiple picks for guys that are north of 30 unless we're talking about Giannis. And again, I think the whole Giannis thing is a pipe dream, but you're not giving up multiple firsts for Anthony Davis at this point, in addition to Draymond and Kuminga or Jimmy Butler for Anthony Davis. I at least that wouldn't be on my radar at this point. Again, I don't think the Warriors need another star, but what the Warriors need is another bona fide closing lineup player that's young prime. And they, do you have to give up a pick or two maybe to get that? Yes, but the hope is that you get that player, and that player, if it's, the ilk of a Trey Murphy, let's say, again, that's probably the perfect example. That's the Trey Murphy is the perfect example, but I think, he's the type of guy that could be part of a future to a greater extent than a Pajemski or a Kuminga or a Moody or Quentin Post, but also help get this team over the top right this second. Those are the kinds of deals that you have to look to make. And look, the Warriors are not going to be, they're not just going to openly trade picks. We know they don't want to do that. We know they are keeping the future in mind, maybe more than they should, to be perfectly honest. But they're always going to keep the post-Steph era somewhat in mind. They'd be foolish not to. But I still think you see that this team, when they are healthy and when they are locked in and when they do want to go out there and get a game or two or three, they have the ability to do it. And I think that's the thing that's so tantalizing, to where if you can add to the roster in a manner that allows for them to be more consistent in doing that in the regular season, while also not overtaxing themselves, then they do have the potential to be a team that can get on a run as it relates to the playoffs. But again, I don't think they have it as they're currently constituted, because they're going to have to work too hard to get it. I think that's the big thing. I think the record already indicates it. They're 9-8, and I know road heavy schedule and all of that, but they're a playing team right now. And I think they thought they had enough to be able to, even with the daunting schedule that everybody's noted and complained about, that they'd be a couple of games better, that they'd be 11-6, that they'd be 10-7, considering the guys, the teams that they've played with guys out, even having their own little injury stretch or illness stretch with Steph Curry, to where they didn't have him for a handful of games. All right, let's get one more here, and then we'll take a timeout. Sear, Pods played like the team was on his shoulders. Yeah, he sure did. And it wasn't pretty tonight. And I think Pods wants to accept that responsibility, but he's just not capable right now of being that kind of a player. And I go back to what Steve Kerr said a lot as it relates to Pods. He needs to stop trying to be great and just focus on being good. Just make the simple play. Make the simple play. And quit thinking that you have to absorb the entire team being on your shoulders because other guys are out, or because even Kuminga, who could have shared that load with you tonight as a younger player, is out. And so it almost, Pods, it's almost as if Pods going into a game like today says, well, it's me and Moody, got to go get 30. And it's like, just go play basketball. Let the game come to you. Make the right plays. Take shots when you're open. Don't turn it over. And maybe you score 18 and you're more impactful toward winning because you played the right way, as opposed to coming out and jacking up 19 shots because you're trying to go for 35 when you're at this point incapable of doing it without the others on the roster. So good stuff there from the YouTube chat. We'll get more Kyle's clicks coming up here in just a moment. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation here as the Warriors lose this one 110-96 to the Heat. They finished the roadie 3-3 back home for Portland on Friday. And we are all over it right here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
Final segment. Warriors lose 110-96 to the Heat. Heat improved to 9-6. Warriors dropped to 9-8 as they end up 3-3 in the road trip, as we've been talking about here since about 7 o'clock. Appreciate everybody jumping in early on the phone lines at 808 KNBR. We can sneak in another call or two. Your big takeaways from the road trip at 3-3. Not a lot to glean from tonight overall, but the Warriors back in action on Friday as they'll take on the Portland Trailblazers at Chase Center at 7 p.m. So we'll be back at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City after that ball game. So looking forward to being back out there on Friday and over the course of the 5-game homestand as the Warriors will take on Utah, also Houston, New Orleans, and the Oklahoma City Thunder before the Dubs go back on the road. We'll let you know about a special night at Chase Center on Friday here coming up in just a second, but let's get to our sounds at Dubs OT. We'll make it short and to the point here tonight, and we'll hear 3 cuts from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, following this one, and most of them, I would say, probably predictable as it relates to this game. Warriors got down 20-4, and then they worked their way back to having a 5-point lead before the Heat were able to rally and take control of the game down the stretch and in the fourth quarter. So here is Steve Kerr talking about the overall effort from his squad tonight against the Heat.
Really proud of the guys for the effort, the fight. I thought Bam and Norm took over the game the last 5 minutes, but we hung in there. A couple stretches of the game where we went cold really hurt us. And then the turnovers, we had maybe 4 of them, like where they pressured us on inbounds and we weren't able to, get the ball up the floor cleanly. Those possessions really hurt, and give Miami credit. They put a lot of pressure on us.
And again, the numbers, they were talking about it on the television broadcast again, and it's been a big topic of discussion. The Warriors now 1-8 when they have more turnovers than their opponent in 9 games this season. 8 games they've had fewer turnovers than their opponent, and in those 8 games, the Warriors have not lost on the season. They are 8-0 when they have fewer turnovers than their opponent to begin the year. So different deal tonight with the Warriors extremely shorthanded, but the turnovers have really truly told the story for Golden State here throughout the first 17 games of this season. So let's hear more on that as Steve Kerr gets into the types of turnovers and the ability that he's confident that he thinks they can turn it around.
I'm very, very confident that we will get that turned around. We got it turned around last year after we got Jimmy, got our turnovers way back. So that's going to be the focus when we get home. We're 8-0 when we win the turnover battle, and I think 1-8 when we don't. So it's pretty clear cut. We have to do a better job of as coaches of giving the guys better, spacing and cutting and teaching it better so that the decisions become easier. And then they've got to do a better job of just making simple decisions.
I think the last part's the most important part. It's the simple decisions. I don't feel like for the most part this year in watching the Warriors that a lot of the issues have been spacing that's led to the turnovers. It really, and it's always a constant conversation. I think it's been more sloppiness and lack of execution and just carelessness, frankly. And I think it's been the primary ball handlers, as it often is, but I think it's been too much of Steph turning it over. It's been too much of Draymond turning it over. It's been too much of Kuminga when he's got the ball in his hands. Not as much at the beginning of the year, but that was the big issue that kind of flipped things for Kuminga as he started to be less effective for the Warriors before he went down with injury. And it's been Podziemski as well. I mean, again, the guys that typically wind up being the primary ball handlers for the Dubs, not named Jimmy Butler, are Steph, Draymond, Kuminga when Kuminga's out there, and Podziemski. And then, too many obviously in short time on the floor from Buddy Hield, which has to be cleaned up. Otherwise, Buddy just can't be out there. If Buddy's not going to be hitting shots and he's going to be turning it over 3-4 times in 15 minutes of action, that's just the kind of thing that gets you to a point where you're not going to be in the rotation for very much longer. And, you could make the case the Warriors don't really have another option at this point, but other options are coming with DeAnthony Melton. Other options are coming potentially with Seth Curry being added to the roster. And so I think the leash on Buddy Hield might be getting a little bit shorter here as time continues if he can't be somebody that can cut down on the turnovers. All right, let's hear our final clip from Steve Kerr talking about the road trip as a whole. Warriors end up 3-3 on the road trip, which I think they've got to be pretty happy about, right, Steve?
Well, there's plenty of data. There's plenty of film. I was just most pleased with, after that OKC game, just felt like our level of fight and competition was where it needed to be. And so we were able to, obviously split the 6 games on the trip coming off that, that beat down in OKC. And so I like where we are now, better as a team, but we have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. And again, the competitive spirit can't be so wavering. And I think it was there in terms of competitive spirit and focus the first 4 games. I think it waned when they went on the road to Indiana and Milwaukee first, and then Indiana. And then they started to deal with some injuries and some illness and some things. And it kind of snowballed on them to a point where it got a little ugly at the conclusion of that OKC game. But it can't, the Warriors have to prevent it from getting as ugly as it got before it gets better. That's how you wind up being a 50-win team as opposed to, say, a 45, 46-win team, stopping the bleeding. And I think the Warriors did do that on this trip, considering where things were after that Oklahoma City game, to be able to go 3-2 once you get to 500 at 6-6. So you go from 4-1 to 6-6, but to be able to win the next 3 games, it shows you that they've got it in them. And I think the back end of the trip caught up with them, with the young guys not really providing much last night. And then tonight's a game that you effectively punt on. So, 1 loss turns into 2, but the 3 big wins, and I think the 2 biggest wins of this season for the Warriors to this point are the 2 games in San Antonio. That's the 2 games that stabilized everything for Golden State here, to where now they can head home. And if they can continue to be as productive and effective as they have been on the home court to begin the year, where they are undefeated, then they've got a chance to separate a little bit here before they go back out on the road. And maybe by the early part of December, they can get this thing back closer to where they thought it would be in terms of the overall record. That's the beauty of the 82-game season. It can be a blessing or a curse. And I think that it can be a blessing in the sense that, this team, I think, is disappointed overall in the 9-8. You feel pretty good about the 3-3. It's been a gauntlet of 17 games to this point with all the road games. But I think it also is a blessing in the sense that there are still 65 games to go. So there are plenty of games for this team to figure out how to get on a run, how to add to this roster, how to get the right combinations of players to work through the regular season and lead toward being in a position that they want to be in, that gives them a shot to be a formidable playoff team. So good stuff there from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, in our Sounds of Dubs OT segment. All right, 808 KMBR. I want to get to a couple of text messages as well. Let's get to the 650. Kuminga could have been helpful tonight. I agree with that. You never know how effective Kuminga is going to be, but tonight was a night where, especially early, he would have been a starter tonight had he been healthy. And so I think he could have had the freedom to stretch his legs and fill in some of the gaps that the Warriors were lacking offensively, and maybe the way the rest of the game played out, if this is a 18-point Kuminga night, they have the ability to steal the game, and we'll never know. But yeah, these kinds of games I think are really important for Jonathan Kuminga to be able to play in and showcase his game at a greater level than just the turbocharged role player that I think the Warriors are hopeful that he can be. 925, since Curry, Clay, and Draymond, who have the Warriors drafted that has had great impact? So either the Warriors can't develop players or they don't draft the right players. Draymond needs to go, need a big man who can defend and score. Well, we've talked about the big man thing a ton. They haven't drafted any future Hall of Famers since Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Jordan Poole is a pretty productive player for them. Kevon Looney, pretty productive player for them. But yeah, no stars, no all-stars, no future Hall of Famers, at least to this point, among the group. They have, but I think it's just, it's disingenuous and dishonest and just out and out not true to say that the Warriors have been unable to develop. They developed Jordan Poole into somebody that was really a 2.5, third, a 2 to 3 option at different points of a championship team. And, so that, like, they get credit for that. Kevon Looney was a starter on a championship team and a key performer on a number of championship teams. Like, development is not just who becomes an all-star and who becomes a standalone impact player. So I think they have, Kuminga is better now than he was as a rookie. Now, has he developed into what everybody would have hoped he would become? No, he hasn't. But I think that's more skill set and fit, not rolling with I think that's more they didn't draft the right player than inability to develop. They've developed Moses Moody, and I don't want to put a cap on what Moses Moody's ceiling is, but they've developed Moses Moody into a player that's an effective closing type player with Steph and Draymond and Jimmy Butler, at least toward the end of last year. Now we'll see, does that stand up again this year in the playoffs? Do they need to add somebody else? And again, the jury's still out. I mean, Podziemski has not been a horrible player throughout his entire Warriors tenure, like sometimes he gets spoken of. So I don't know. I think it's disingenuous to look at the Warriors as if they have not developed anybody. They haven't developed superstars and future Hall of Famers, but they've developed, I think, more of the players that they've had on the roster than I think at times they get credit for. But I think two things can be equally true, and you can say that they still aren't, they haven't developed these guys to the point that they're carriers, which in and of its own right is a problem. 2-2-4, Dubs keep choking away road lead wins and will keep them in the play-in once again. We shall see. I wouldn't put tonight in that category, although, I mean, they did have the lead tonight and got beat. But again, we're talking about the 5 through 15, 6 through 15 on the Warriors roster basically playing tonight against Miami, having everybody with the exception of Tyler Hero. But 408, I know he's not the only problem, but there's something about Pods that makes me want to punch him in the face. Okay, 408. Good Lord. That's a little harsh. I don't know about that, but yeah, he's struggling at this point. 307. Warriors home streak continues back at Chase on Friday, beginning with Portland. 510. Steve Kerr sounds like he needs a coach load management game. Funny, sometimes Steve, I think, Kyle, sounds like he almost enjoys these games a little bit. They're a little refreshing or reinvigorating to him, where he, outcome doesn't matter. Let the young guys go out there and just compete. And at the end of the night, you're happy with the fact that everybody just got a shot. So I didn't get that sense from him tonight. If anything, maybe I got that sense after the Oklahoma City game, when they're dealing with a little bit more potential internal drama and some fractures that may be rolling here for this team. 916, on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. This team can be top 6. They need 2 key pieces, a shooter off the bench, defensive presence in the paint. Otherwise, aging team injuries will pop up. I think if it's a 3-and-D wing shooter, I think that makes sense. If it's a lead guard, combo guard type of shooter scorer, I think that also makes sense. And, yeah, the defensive presence in the paint. I still think it's more about size on the wing than size on the interior, but I don't think the Warriors would turn down size on the interior. I think they also have to look at, if they look to go get a big, I think it also winds up being an admission that the Al Horford signing is not working out. And I just don't think the Warriors are at a point right now where they want to view the Al Horford signing as not working out. So, Kyle, your thoughts on any or all of that here, my friend?
Yeah. I bet this is a refreshing game for Kerr. And this is the second time, if I'm right, JD, where it's been Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph have all sat out in a game, right? It was Sacramento and then tonight.
Yes, exactly. And they were competitive in both games.
Right. That's kind of where I was going with it. It's like, yeah, just let the guys run out and play basketball. Let's just keep the sets to simple, clean offense and let the guys run around. And yeah, frankly, they've been competitive in both games. And tonight was a bigger shocker than the game in Sacramento.
Yeah, I agree. I thought tonight had the potential, especially when it was 20-4. I thought it was going to be ugly. I thought it could get real ugly, real fast, and it didn't. And that's a credit to the Dubs. All right, we're going to get some Kyle's clicks here, but first I want to let everybody know what's going on with Friday night at Chase Center, because Friday night at Chase Center, the Warriors are going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1975 NBA championship. Warriors and the Blazers. Again, we're going to be out at Harmonic and Thrive City after that one. But all the living members of that Warriors team that won the title 50 years ago are going to be on hand for the celebration. Rick Barry, Butch Beard, Charles Dudley, George Johnson, Jeff Mullins, Clifford Ray, and Jamal Wilkes all will be in attendance, and all are going to be signing autographs inside the Golden State team shop at Thrive City from $550 to $625. So cool deal there, as well as the Warriors will honor that 50th anniversary team that won the title back in 1975. So yeah, tickets available at Warriors.com. The Warriors passing along that note. So if you're looking to maybe go to the game here ahead of the holiday season, a little bit of added incentive to celebrate the true OGs that won the title for the Warriors back in 1975. All right, let's get some Kyle's clicks here before we wrap up with some fun with numbers. Appreciate everybody, as always, a lively YouTube chat. Sear, JD, do you think the Warriors will win over 45 games this season? I do. I'm taking the over on 45. I think 46. I'm just going to take the over. I think it's going to be close to 50. The way that they've played to this point, I would say less than 50, but more than 45. And 2 years ago, they won 46. Last year, they won 48. It feels more aligned with last year to me right now than 2 years ago. But I do think if they can make the right moves at the lead up to the trade deadline, they have the ability still to get north of 50, but I don't think they can get north of 50 with the team that they currently have. But I'm going over 45. So appreciate that one. Sear, Max Lopez, Norman Powell would be the Warriors' second best scorer, right? Man, Norman Powell, like, Warriors could use a Norman Powell. You imagine the Warriors had Norm Powell. If you was Steph, Norm Powell, Jimmy, Draymond, QP, or Steph, Norm Powell, Moody, Jimmy, Draymond, or mix in Horford, bring Pods off the bench. Yeah, they could use a Norm Powell. Like, Norm Powell's exactly the kind of guy that they could use, and he's really helped Miami, and he's really hurt the Clippers not having him. Fozzie, I've been a part of some crazy takes on Dubs OT. I called after game one last year and said the Dubs are going to sweep Houston. Yeah. Crazy takes are just part of the deal, Fosse. Crazy takes happen. That's why we're here. It's just it's part of the Dubs OT experience. So yeah. EB here. People think Pat Spencer is the answer and want to get Thompson. Just end the show, JD. It's not even Friday. Please, these people are drunk. Yeah, no. No Klay Thompson and Pat Spencer is not the answer, but Pat Spencer's got some dog in him. Pat Spencer's definitely got some dog in him. Let's continue here. San Jose Jazz fan Fitz with 2 minutes left in the game. One takeaway Steve Kerr can have from this game is Pat Spencer. Yeah, he's, again, competes. Dr. P, party at Thrive City on January 15th when Podziemski and Kuminga are traded once and for all. Well, Podziemski could get traded anytime, but I think he's going to be included in another deal if he's moved. And I'm still not convinced he's going to be moved. Again, I know people are down on him, and I understand all the reasons why, but Pods is somebody that's, he's he is somebody that I think can still function with the others. All right, one more, two more. We're getting late quick here. All 21 turnovers. All 21 turnovers were bonehead turnovers. And with that, let's get to our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Dig'em117. Again, I should have load managed and watched a movie. Never. I mean, I guess you could have watched a movie and still joined us for Dubs OT. But alas, we're glad you watched the game, and we appreciate everybody who's been here on Dubs OT tonight. So that's our comment of the night. Let's get to fun with numbers, and we will call it a night here on the Sports Leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on knbr.com and the KNBR app.
All right, we've been talking about it. Warriors 9-8 overall. They're 4-8 on the road, 3-3 on the trip. Warriors 17 games in 30 days, the most in the NBA, 12 of the 17 on the road. The next 5 are going to be at home for Golden State. It's the first time this season the Warriors got swept in a back-to-back. Second time this season the Warriors played, as Kyle mentioned, without Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy. The other game in Sacramento 2 weeks ago tonight in the second of the back-to-back. Warriors are 0-2 in those games. Podziemski ended up with 20, but it was not an efficient 20. Bright spots for the Dubs in this one, Pat Spencer and Quentin Post, as the Warriors fall 110-96. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to Jordan Pertari and to Kyle Haar back in our Daly City studios. Anybody I'm leaving out tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it was good to see Jacob Violante and his long hair, but yeah, that was it.
Always great to see Jacob Violante. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to the callers. Caller heavy show at the beginning. The texters on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. And we will talk to you Friday from Harmonic and Thrive City after the Warriors and the Blazers. Dubs OT with JD right here on the Sports Leader.